College of Physicians for this, the first audience with Queen's University's Graduate School. My name is Audrey Carville, and I am lucky enough to work on both sides of the border. I present Morning Ireland on RTE Radio, and I present Sunday Sequence on BBC Radio Ulster. So I get to experience the whole island, and I would highly recommend it. And that, in part, is why we are here this evening, to entice you with excellence and quality. It's an opportunity to not only further your own education, but to make a contribution to the wider world through that education. So for the next 45 minutes or so, you are going to get the opportunity to speak directly to the people who are at the heart of the graduate school at Queen's University. They will explain the postgraduate scheme, they will explain how it works, they will answer any questions that you have. We're also being periscoped this evening, so a big welcome to our viewers there, and you're very welcome to join in and ask any questions that you have as well. So, before all of that, let us take a look at what a postgraduate education at Queen's University in Belfast will offer you.
I'm a professor in the School of Psychology, actually, so people often wonder what's psychology doing in the Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences, but I'm actually a scientist who's interested in behaviour, and a lot of my research is really around how the brain controls movement, and we're very interested in how we can use immersive technology, such as virtual reality, to see how people can improve decision making, particularly in sport.
That's great. Michael, we'll let you get your microphone sorted, and we'll move on. Professor Topping.
Hi everyone, so I'm Professor of French Literary and Visual Culture in the School of Arts, English and Languages at Queen's, as well as being Dean of the Graduate School. My own research interests relate to questions of mobility, migration, borders, identity, so very topical at the moment. What I'm also particularly interested in, though, is how that we can bring together students, researchers from across all disciplines to address global challenges. And I guess one of particular passion is the value of the humanities in answering some of the global issues that will face us all.
Thank you, Margaret. Professor Lawler.
Hi, Mark Lawler. I'm Chair in Translational Cancer Genomics at Queen's, so I'm a cancer researcher, run a cancer research lab, and also run a program, a PhD program in precision cancer medicine that comes out of one of our MRes programs that we'll talk about later. So really interested in looking at how we actually apply our understanding of cancer to really treat cancer patients, to develop new diagnostic tools to help the cancer patient.
Professor Alcorn.
I think I'm now plugged in. My name is Michael Alcorn. I'm Dean of Graduate Studies in the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, Social Sciences. I'm also Professor of Music in the School of Creative Arts, or now the School of Arts, English and Languages. My research is all about writing music and aligning that with new technologies, looking at how musicians interact with computers and sensors and new technologies.
Thank you very much. I should say, if any of you want to ask any questions throughout the evening, please just raise your hand. We have some microphones that are roving. We'll get them to you and you can join in. So let me start with you, Professor Topping. Will you explain, because you are Dean of the Graduate School, will you tell me about the school, why it was opened, what its vision is?
Yes, so the Graduate School is quite a new addition to Queen's postgraduate culture. We opened in middle of 2015, so we're still quite a new organisation within the university. And you'll see, I think you'll have seen some of the images that have been going through on the video. What I would say first and foremost is that it is an absolutely fantastic building. I think a lot of universities have graduate schools, but often these are virtual spaces or administrative spaces. This is a fabulous space that is just for our postgraduate students. And that's really the starting point of the graduate school. It is about creating a community, and a community that brings together all of the disciplines, all of the faculties that we've got represented here into a space where they can socialise together, they can talk together, they can address grand challenge questions together. So essentially what we are is a sort of an intellectual hub, a social hub, and a place where people come together for high-level training and development opportunities. I suppose where the idea of the graduate school came from was a recognition at Queen's that what we want to offer postgraduates is, yes, a postgraduate degree in whatever subject, or a PhD opportunity in whatever subject. We want to develop those high-level subject specialists. But it's also based on the idea that what we want to create are people who are ready to go out into whatever career comes their way, or whatever series of careers come their way, or whatever life throws in their direction. So it's really, the graduate school is a kind of what wraps around all of the faculty work and the individual courses and the individual PhD programs that our students take. It's the place where we also focus on the whole person. And what we're keen to do is to produce those people who are ready for whatever happens. So we're very much focused on skills in thinking, in communicating, in innovating, in leading. And all of those, we'd say, is what makes people future ready. If you combine that with the subject specialism that you get in your master's programme and this whole wealth of opportunity you get elsewhere, that's a really, really powerful mix. And I think the only other thing I'd say about the graduate school is that it brings everyone together. So we do have the medics talking to the theologians, and we have the creative artists talking to the physicists. And those are interesting conversations. They're not always easy conversations, but there's something very exciting when you have this sort of discussion with two very, very different people coming from very different cultures in a way. So, I mean, I'm a great believer in you. If you keep talking to the same people, you'll never see anything different. And I think what we have is students talking about very, very different ideas and applying those to their own work and coming up with really different approaches to the problems they're dealing with in their research or their study.
That is very enticing. And we have a number of students from Queen's University Graduate School with us this evening, and we'll talk to them during the course of the evening to get their views, to get their experiences, to let you hear what it is actually like studying there as a postgraduate. And I'll bring Jessica Fletcher in. Jessica, you are studying molecular biology and biotechnology. Will you just give the audience an idea of what you have gotten out of the graduate school so far?
Kind of like starts you out with a home base. So I went there, I met loads of people, and still to this day, talking, meeting with them, going to the graduate school. I use it as a place to study, and also it has great group study facilities. So basically using it as a home base for the rest of my studies.
That's great. Jessica, thank you. We're going to come back and talk more about the graduate school a little bit later before we close this evening. Professor Lawler, I want to ask you why anyone here should consider doing a postgraduate degree at Queen's University.
Well, I think as Margaret started to talk about there, it's combining the specialist skills that we can bring. So, for example, you can tell from my accent that I'm actually from Dublin. So I went to Belfast 4 years ago. So I'm on a similar journey as hopefully a lot of you here tonight is. And the reason why I went there was because in my area of research, cancer, Belfast is actually a world leader. And so it's that type of thing of actually saying, I want to go somewhere where actually I can be taught by, I can listen to, I can work in the labs of people who have international reputations. And that's really important because you learn things, but also it is important in terms of your career going forward. So it's that sort of specialist skills, things that we're very good at Queen's, that people then get the opportunity to do that. So for example, in our MRes program in translational medicine that has a precision cancer medicine stream, you get to work with the key people. You're in their lab, you're in a building where 220 scientists are working, where you're actually exposed to a culture of research excellence. And you can't really beat that because that then gives you the tools to then progress your career.
Michael, for you, why should someone here studying in the Republic, why should they go to Queen's?
Yeah. I mean, I think in my own faculty, in recent years, we've worked very hard to refine where our real areas of expertise lie. To give you an example, we're in a sort of post-conflict zone, and our programme, such as violence, terrorism and security, really picks up on the context that we're in and the opportunities that that brings for our students on that programme. So there are lots of examples where we've really looked to see where our expertise lies. And I think for many of those reasons, so it is our programmes around law, around our education programmes, and also in our management school, but also more broadly across the whole faculty, we've worked very hard to make distinctive. And I think if you look by comparison to other programmes, you'll see there are aspects of it that are very much anchored in Northern Ireland and Belfast that play on the strengths that are there around areas like creative writing and things like that, which is also very strong. And I think we've worked very hard to make those very strong and very clear.
Kathy, from your perspective.
Yeah, so I mean, tying in with what Michael just said there, Thomas Frey, who's a futurist speaker, talks about the importance of education and the importance of educating people for jobs that don't exist yet, for technology that hasn't been invented yet, and for problems we don't even know are problems yet. And if we look at our modern society, the effect of digital technology, how it's changing our lives, but creating new challenges as well, such as cybersecurity. We, I feel, at Queen's are on top of that. As deans, we are very much trying to make sure our portfolio is relevant and that we're very agile in the way we create that portfolio to respond to the needs of society, and more importantly, to educate students for the future jobs that we know we need them to be employed in. So applied cybersecurity is a big course in my faculty in engineering physical sciences, and also other things around data analytics as well. Those are the jobs for tomorrow. Those are where the skills are needed, and particularly in Belfast, in Northern Ireland, the digital economy is very strong, so there's definitely that need there for those, and we have very close links with our employers. So that's what's unique about Belfast, is that close link with employers.
Mark, how does it help get a better job?
I think what you find is that we bring the skill sets that actually employers want. So what we're looking at is, yes, you get specialist skills, but also the employers are actually looking and saying, we want to do this. So an example would be Almac. Almac Diagnostics is one of the biggest molecular diagnostics companies in Europe. We've 17 Almac scientists working within one of our research centres, Centre for Cancer Research and Cell Biology, but also it means then that not only do you get people who are scientists then going into Almac after doing a master's or a PhD, but also from other disciplines, because obviously Almac is a business. So you get people going into the business end, into the creative end, into the scientific end. So they're the really sort of opportunities that you get that we feel, and as Kathy said, that closeness, I mean, we're a small society in terms of size, but that actually allows us to be agile, to work very closely with industry. Similarly, in global food security, again, another area where we have significant expertise. We actually work very closely with all with the Nestle's of this world, My Farm, etc. So it's that type of thing that it's giving you the specialist skills, but also that link into employment, which we greatly value and want to push the employability of our degrees as well.
Can we get a microphone to James Illingworth? James is doing a PhD in French literature. And James, will you tell us about the placements that you have done as part of the postgraduate study?
So for the past, for 7 months of last year, I worked in a museum in the north of England. You might think, my research is on 19th century French women's writing, so when they're talking about relevance, you might think, how on earth do you make that relevant to modern society? Working in this museum, they have a massive collection of books, very, very early 19th century and pre-19th century books that no one knew were there. So I went and looked at them, catalogued them, told them what they had. Some of them are very historically significant. But Margaret keeps talking about community and future readiness. And the graduate school community doesn't just mean interacting with other postgraduates. It's through the graduate school and the connections with their external partners, the people beyond the academy, that I discovered. I wouldn't have known that these books were there. No one knew that they were there except the people at the museum. But at an event at Queen's, I met the head of collections of this museum, and they said, "Oh, you work on books? We've got some books. Do you want to come and look at our books?" And I was like, "Yes, please, thank you, please." And now they have this massive catalogue of, I think it was 2,000 volumes in French. I also part curated an exhibition, and a publication came out of that. And similarly, through this community at the graduate school, talking to someone who works in government in Northern Ireland, I and through also linked into a training course that was part of Queen's. I co-curated an exhibition that travelled around Northern Ireland, all about English literature. So there are lots of different opportunities that the graduate school facilitates. You have to go out and do them, be ready to do them, but the graduate school puts you in a position that you can take all of these opportunities that make you, future ready.
Sounds great. James, thank you very much. Margaret, does it make you more employable?
I think it does. I mean, I think the example that James gave and also the example that Mark gave are very important. I mean, our ethos in the graduate school is always about inspiring, so making sure that students have access to leaders in whether it's museum studies, whether it's local government, whether it's world-leading cancer specialists. It's inspired them, then giving the opportunities to develop skills, to have training opportunities, but then crucially also to apply the skills in real contexts. And that does range from the kind of food security specialists to the 19th century French studies. So James, through his work, came to be doing some work in the graduate school around public engagement. Through that, he started thinking about how can I use public engagement, what I've learned there, to use that in my own research. Similarly with the global food security colleagues who are working in Mark's faculty, those are people with excellent subject specialism, but we also need those people to be trained in innovation and entrepreneurship. So in the summer, we're going to run a collaborative summer school and innovation bootcamp between ourselves and 2 other universities, where we bring students together and teach them, yeah, okay, you're really good subject specialists, but how do you make that into innovation? How do you transfer that into entrepreneurial skill? So it's about it's that opportunity for application, which I think is spot on. We have a lot of opportunities for placements, and I know that Kathy's faculty is particularly strong in that, but the idea of embedding a placement within your master's programme is another key skill, and always it comes down to applying your knowledge.
Kathy, is it for those who perhaps want to change careers and therefore have to return to education, perhaps that little bit later in life?
Yeah, for me, the exciting thing about postgraduate education is it's open to everybody. Undergraduate, everybody tends to think, oh, it's after school, and usually that is the usual sort of parcours that people take. But for me, postgraduate, we have everybody from every walk of life who comes to do our courses. So we have conversion courses. So again, Thomas Frey talks about those who will go into employment in 2030 having up to 6 different jobs. So people no longer go into one career and stick in that career. And people maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, suddenly think, well, I want to do something different. I've always wanted to do that, or new opportunities come to play. So yes, we're very mindful of that. And a lot of our programs mean that people can convert. They can change career paths. So we've got software development. We've had students who've come from the arts and humanities background, who do the aptitude test, who pass it, come onto the course, can code, and then go and get one of the many jobs that companies need in terms of software developers. A very exciting new program in psychology as well. Being a psychologist, of course, I wanted to plug that. But it's a conversion course, so in 1 year, yes, it's intense, yes, it's full on, but you can get graduate basis registration with the British Psychological Society after 1 year intensive psychology program at postgraduate level. So yes, lots of opportunity.
Margaret, if we look at, we're sitting here having this conversation in Dublin. You're based at Queen's University in Belfast. There are obviously universities here in Dublin. There's Trinity, there's University College Dublin. What is different about a master's degree at Queen's University compared to the ones here?
I think it really is that combination that we've all been talking about of absolutely highest level subject specialism, working with world leaders in research environments, but also recognising that that sort of intellectual training is extremely valuable, but it's not going to be enough on its own for the kind of society that Kathy is talking about. We don't know what the jobs of the future are going to look like. We don't know which of those jobs are going to be replaced by technology. So what we need to do is to create people who have capacity to think flexibly, adaptably. People who are able to innovate and move through new and problem solve in different situations. People who have leadership skills. People who can communicate to a wide variety of audiences. It's not enough to be able to talk to academics about academic subjects. We've got to have postgraduates who can go out and speak to the media, speak to policymakers. And I think it's that combination of that excellence at subject level and the whole apparatus around that, which is developing you to be a person who is future ready, assuming we don't know what that future is going to be, but you have the skills to respond to any challenges. That's what we're all about, and I think that's what's quite distinctive about Queen's. That and the fact that we have this amazing community space, which is the graduate school, which brings together, as I said, also people from a whole range of disciplinary backgrounds. Many universities keep the arts and humanities people away from the medicine, health and life sciences and the psychologists. We throw them all in together, and that's an exciting space to be in, if an uncomfortable one.
If an uncomfortable one. Do we have a question here? Yes, hi. If you could stand up and just introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dee Kerwin, and I was actually looking at the conversion course in psychology. I just wondered about accreditation in the southern, like in the Republic of Ireland, because I know the course is accredited by the British Psychological Society, but then I was wondering when I come back from doing the Masters, then will it be recognised in the Republic?
Yeah, it's my understanding that yes, it will be, because the British Psychological Society and the PSI, which is Psychological Society of Ireland, have this understanding, so there's that mutual acceptance of it. So if we have got BPS accreditation for an undergraduate or a postgraduate course, that is usually transferable. I can check for you, but I'm nearly 100% certain that that is the case.
Right.
And indeed, some of our lecturers have worked at PSI. One of my ex-colleagues is actually working there, so yes, there's no problem there, but it's very important it's accredited, and that's what we do have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any more questions, just raise your hand and we'll get to you. Michael, the differences north and south is what we're exploring, and there's a range of programs, as we've talked about. They're also very tailored, aren't they, to suit everyone's specific journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's at one level down to subject area, but it's also the mode of delivery. So, for example, in our some of the programs linked to our education school or part of the school can be delivered in blocks. So people who are, for example, holding down full-time jobs can still undertake study. Some of it's done by blended learning, online, distance learning. So those are some of the specialist programs like the spectrum disorder program, some of the education development programs. They're all designed to be undertaken while it's still in employment. So there's a delivery part of it, I think, that is flexible. I think the other thing that is important for us is that even within, say, our GRI, this is our Global Research Institute, which is looking at, again, conflict transformation and social justice, within that, all the schools in our faculty are involved, and it is possible then to find your own path through that reflects your specialism. And I think there's an element of flexibility that's around building something around the sort of learner's journey that's very important for us. So, and I think that does allow a lot of flexibility for individual students.
Can we get a microphone to Dara Buckley? Dara is one of the postgraduate students from Queen's who's with us this evening. Dara, will you talk to us about the array of courses that is on offer to you that you find attractive?
Yeah, one of the main reasons I considered Queen's in the first place was the array of different courses that were on offer when I looked at it, and one of them just very happened to be molecular biology and biotechnology, which was my key interest after I left my undergraduate. So I think the fact that they had such a wide breadth of courses really helps in attracting students who maybe have more niche interests like myself. So I don't know what more to say.
Yeah, no, that's great, exactly. And Mark, it's what you were saying earlier as well about the contacts that you make with global leaders in their field. This is all going on at Queen's University.
Absolutely, and I mean that's a big part of what we do, and in terms of having, for example, internships as part of the postgraduate program, placements, also the possibility of them leading to, so one of the programs we have allows you then to go on to do a PhD at the National Cancer Institute in Washington, which is one of the best cancer institutes in the world. So that gives that opportunity that you're at Queen's, but then you also get to go to the US and sort of work in the best cancer institute in the world. Similarly with global food security, for example, looking at interacting, working in Nestle, being placed in industry. So those type of things. So it gives you that exposure. And I think that's really the thing. What we're trying to say is, as Margaret says, we want to make people future ready, and they need to be future ready and nimble to actually, to see what are the opportunities that are going to arise. And that's the type of thing we're trying to do. Margaret is also very modest The other reason why the graduate school is so good, it's the #1 in the world, okay? So not in Europe, not in Great Britain, in the world, as judged independently. So that's why we actually have something to talk about, and because we actually are delivering.
Margaret, you should have said that right at the very outset.
I'll buy the drink afterwards. I was just going to add to that, if I might, that one of those questions about the future readiness, the opportunity for international mobility, we're very keen to make sure that embedded within the master's programmes and PhD programmes, as James has said, there is that opportunity for working with community organisations, working with companies, locally, nationally, internationally. And one of the areas that we're piloting this year for the first time, and actually all the faculties are involved, but I'd certainly say engineering and physical science have been very involved, is something called Making the Most of Masters, where instead of doing a traditional research-based dissertation, students go out and do a work-based project. And that's very exciting. We have a number of courses who have adopted that, taken part in our pilot this year. From all 3 faculties. And again, that's about, depends what you want to do subsequently, but particularly for people who are maybe looking at conversion activity or looking forward to the ways in which they can upskill themselves for career development, having an opportunity to go and do a research-based but work-based project is hugely valuable. So we hope to have about 20 to 30 students going through that this year, and from next year we'll be growing that very significantly.
Margaret, I'm going to stay with you for the next question because it involves cost. Obviously, a big factor in whether someone decides to continue their education with postgraduate study is the cost of it. So what is the situation at Queen's University?
So we're in a very positive situation just now. A very recent change has made loans available for postgraduate study. I mean, we absolutely welcome this because we do see that one of the major inhibitors for students who want to go on and carry on as postgrads is the cost. There are lots of opportunities to get funding if you go on to PhD level, but sometimes it's that initial stage of a master's programme which is very hard to fund. And invariably that makes people hesitant. That's one of the reasons why we've been so keen on skills and employability. But in very practical terms now, we now have availability of postgraduate loans, which are a value of £5,500, which is the cost of our postgraduate fee. And those are being made available to students in Northern Ireland and in the EU. So it will be available to people who are from Dublin, from anywhere in the country. The only stipulation is that they would have to come and use that in Northern Ireland to study at one of the universities in Northern Ireland. But I mean, it's a huge difference in terms of the investment that people can make in their future if they have that 5,500, which is being kind of banked. I think the cost of living then added to that in Belfast is a very significant differentiator between Belfast and many other parts of the UK and Ireland.
I can certainly vouch from that, having moved from Dublin to Belfast. It's a lot cheaper.
And then, Margaret, the loan is repayable once you begin work?
That's right. Yes, that's right.
Okay, lovely. We're going to go back and talk a little bit more now about the graduate school in detail. If I can bring in Matthew Jackson. Matthew's another of the postgraduate students. And Matthew, you are studying history and politics. Will you talk to us what you see as the benefits of the trainings of the graduate school?
Yeah, from my experience, I did my Masters at Queen's and I'm also in my 3rd year now, my PhD. You obviously develop a new skill set as a postgraduate student. I think the graduate school helps you to develop and harness those skills, but also helps you to overcome some of the challenges that postgraduate study inevitably throws at you. So, practically speaking, things like helping you with literature reviews, working with long documents, dissertation writing, and for me, undertaking research in divided societies as well. But also touching on one of the things Margaret's talked about is developing you as a person as well. So leadership courses, having people in from the BBC to talk to you about communicating your ideas to the public and to wide audiences. So the graduate school, I think, is very much invested not only on a practical side of student study, but also developing them as people to enter what is not only an increasingly competitive workforce, but also society in general. So it's a very important resource for students at Queen's.
Absolutely, it sounds great, and that's important, isn't it, Michael? Because it means then that you are able to use your research and what you have gained through the graduate school to make a contribution to the wider world?
Yeah, that is so important. I mean, even as researchers now, we're being always pressed to demonstrate how our research has a real impact in the world. And it's important for us to cascade that down into our research students, for PhD students, but also for postgraduate taught students who are doing master's programs, because they too, through these things like placements that we're talking about, can demonstrate that they can make a difference. I'll give you an example that we're working on at the minute, and it's not, this program won't go live until next year, 2018, but it's a Master's in Public History, and it's designed basically in partnership with external organisations, and it's all built around placement activities, and that's an example of how we can demonstrate in very real terms the value of study and how it can actually shape somebody's future career.
Kathy, what's your view on that?
Yes, I mean, I totally agree. That involvement of employers again, so for new programmes, how we're approaching it is very different from how we did it before. We actually go first now to the employers and we say, what are the skills you're looking for in a graduate from this type of programme? So our new programme in data analytics and our new programme in mechanical engineering with management, they very much come back, and the focus is very much on the types of skills that Margaret has talked about, those sort of softer skills we would call, but the ones that are difficult to have a computer to do really. So it's like the teamwork, it's the communication, it's the problem solving, ability to think differently, to integrate thought processes, to bring something from here, from here, from here. And that's where the opportunity to have had that interdisciplinary experience, work with others from different backgrounds, is a real asset when you go to the workplace, because you rarely work with people from just your single background. You have to work across disciplines in the workforce too. So again, it's having that opportunity to do that, having our employers who help us design the programs, then offering them the making most of the masters or the work-based projects helps to bring those skills to life. So that's the exciting piece in there for me.
So Mark, it sounds like postgraduate study, postgraduate research is a really good investment all around.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a super investment. You get the skill set. You also get to expose yourself to potential future employers. You think about what Kathy said in relation to the work-based placements. They get an opportunity to look at you and say, okay, is this a person who can actually fit into my organisation? So you don't really get those opportunities normally. Normally, you're in a situation where you're studying something, and then at the end of it, you're then trying to apply to 20 different things to try and get a position afterwards. Here's a chance for you actually to go out there and say, okay, I can do this, I can work on that. I mean, the perfect example in relation to working, the work that you've done in relation to the museum, that then gives you that opportunity to say, I can showcase what I can do, the skills that I have. And that's really where I think we feel it does give you a distinct advantage.
And you make the contacts. We have another question over here.
Hi, it's me again.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, going back to financing, some students from the south would be entitled to a SUSI grant, which would cover the cost of some of the fees. I was wondering how that relates to the student loan, if that's for the full amount, or if,
Would it impact on you getting the full loan amount?
Or well, no. I mean, some people would be maybe entitled to, say, €2,000 towards the cost of the fees. So how does that work with the loan that you offer?
Margaret, do you know that?
I think that we have colleagues outside who'll be able to answer some of those specialist questions around the fees. I know that the loan that is being made available in Northern Ireland is for the fees. It can't be used for maintenance, so it is. Is there someone here who can answer?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm Mina Reid. I'm the head of student recruitment at Queen's University. The loan is very new. It's just come in. It's available for 2017 entry. The kind of detail we would have brought with us had it been available just yet from the department, it within 4 weeks will be. It is a loan unlike the one that is currently available in GB, which is both for tuition fee and living cost. Our loan is against tuition fee. So our understanding is that it would be one or the other in terms of a loan. But the finer detail of that within a very short time you will be able to find on our website. We simply don't have the outworkings of it just yet, but certainly the loan's approved. It's gone to the loan company, works very much the same as an undergraduate loan would have worked in the current market in Northern Ireland and in GB. And it goes to the institution against your tuition fee. So that's how it works.
I mean, my understanding, but we'll confirm this with you, is that the SUSI loan can be used actually for maintenance, and so in that setting you potentially could combine them both, but we'll obviously need to confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from our audience? Just raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Just going back to accreditation, we had one question on it earlier to Kathy. Just talk about accreditation, Margaret. Are all courses accredited, and to where and how that works?
So within all of the faculties there are master's programs which have their own professional accreditation. What we're also trying to do on the graduate school and helping students to develop that broader skills portfolio is to introduce opportunities for them to take professional qualifications alongside their academic qualification. So for example, at the moment we will be running a Chartered Management Institute accredited program in strategic leadership and management, and this is about, again, making you very attractive, showing an employer that you have skills in leadership, in management, in project management, in marketing and finance, whatever a particular area is of particular interest to you in the sort of management space. This is not about producing students all to be working in a particular commercial environment. It's about making sure that whatever you want to do, whether you're working in a charity, whether you're working in a research lab, going into business, you understand, you have that sort of nous to understand how to work in a professional environment. So one key example, as I've mentioned, is a new accreditation, working with the Chartered Management Institute to give our students a Level 7 diploma in strategic leadership and management. Those, as Kathy was saying, we're running those intensively in blocks of time, so you can easily combine this with your core study. Other opportunities that we have actually are collaborations with colleges, with universities here in Dublin. We run an innovation academy for postgraduate students, which is a collaboration between Trinity, UCD and ourselves, where we send students off precisely to take their specialist expertise and learn how to develop that through techniques like design thinking, creative thinking, coming together in multidisciplinary groups to make pitches to employers, to problem solve. And that is also a postgraduate diploma level qualification. I think it's increasingly important for employers also to see, if you're putting a lot of effort in on top of your master's program, your PhD, that you're getting something there as well. We have ways of recognising all of our programs for you in Queen's, but we're certainly keen to start moving towards that kind of accredited add-on in a way.
Great. I'm just going to finish up by asking each of you, if you were returning to education now, what postgraduate course would you pick? Kathy?
I'll be a bit biased and pick one from my faculty. Data analytics. So it's a new course in the faculty, brand new for this year, for 2017 that is. Why? Because even though I'm a psychologist, if I passed the aptitude test, I could do it. Data scientist is apparently the sexiest job in the 21st century. So again, everything we do generates data. And again, it's about making sense of that data. So there is a bit of psychology in there. We do have one of the modules on behavioural analytics, which is really quite exciting, and also analytics in action, which is using real data from companies, again, companies that we're working with, to really understand and make sense of that. So I really see data analytics as a very exciting field of study.
Michael?
I'm torn between two programs. The geek in me would love to do the cybersecurity thing. I think that's an exciting program. But because Kathy chose one on her own faculty after, I've got to do the same. Our new program in global security and borders, I think, is so topical. It's looking at whole issues around asylum, around migration, and about global ethics of people. And it's so current, so contemporary. It's a new program, and it's the sort of thing which I think just really allows people to really get on top of current issues, current ideas. So I think that I'll be very excited about that.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Margaret, what about you?
I am in the very lucky position of having a role in chairing a management board of a group of doctoral students who are working, some of them are working in cybersecurity and some of them are working in the George Mitchell Centre for, what's the title?
So
Global
for
peace,
so
security.
global security.
Global security. Yes. So these are students who are working across that. It's genuine interdisciplinarity, where we do have the technical people who are talking about algorithms, and then we have the social scientists and the humanities people who are talking about what that means in terms of ethics and identities. So I would like to do 2 master's courses. I'd like to do cybersecurity and your global borders.
And Mark.
Okay, so I'm going to be slightly different and say I want to be a food detective. So in terms of food fraud is actually incredible. All around the world, the amount of cases of food fraud that's happening. So our global food security MSc would be one that I'd be really interested in doing, because that would actually tell me, am I eating what I think I'm eating? And also it actually, in terms of the agri-food industry, to be more serious for a minute, it's a huge issue and it's a huge area where people are actually required. It's actually one of the fastest growing areas in our whole faculty in terms of in Africa and India, in looking, for example, at spices and herbs, and actually are they really what you think they are? Unfortunately, what happens is my PVC, Chris Elliott, who founded the Institute for Global Food Security, then keeps on telling me about all these things, and I can't eat anything, because it's almost everything has some sort of food fraud associated with it. So that's what I'd like to do.
Well, if that hasn't whetted your appetite, I don't know what will. Thank you all very much indeed for that and for taking part. Well, that was a really interesting and vibrant conversation, and I hope you got a sense of what is on offer at the graduate school at Queen's University. Don't worry if you have more questions and you want to speak directly to the deans and to everyone involved, because there will be refreshments just down the hall once we've finished here, so you can speak directly to them and ask any more questions that you have. So thank you all very much indeed for coming, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you very much. Brilliant.